Hi guys, it's Dominic here, or Domsticle as you might know me as. Today I felt like doing this video because I want to talk about a game called Dragon's Crown. It's like I find this game to be really brilliant, and like for anyone interested in this style of game, you definitely should check it out. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about it. Dragon's Crown's arcade style beat 'em up. In this day and age, there isn't really that many anymore. I mean, most of them that come out usually fall short of their potential. I mean, look at one of the decent ones recently is probably like Castle Crashers or something like that. But a lot of them just fall down to repetitive gameplay. You know, like Sacred Citadel. If you played that, was alright, but it just got really boring fast. There's no wonder why we get a lot of like old classics like Streets of Rage 2 or Golden Axe re-released with online play, because that gameplay is just, even though we look back and think, oh, it's just nostalgia, it's not that good, but those games have actually aged quite well and they still play really well nowadays, and like there's just a lot of fun to get some mates and just, you know, grand upper and smash people in the face with a steel pipe or whatever. But yeah, I think Dragon's Crown is a game that really deserves to be talking about. It's like it's developed by Vanillaware and published by Atlus, and I believe personally that these two companies might have brought a game that's extremely exciting, mechanically deep, and very rewarding beat 'em up. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk more about it. Dragon's Crown takes place in a wonderfully crafted fantasy world, and players at the start must pick one of 6 adventurers, each one represent a class in the game, and they must fight their way through dungeons filled with enemies and loot. The overall story follows the adventurers seeking out a legendary treasure known as the Dragon's Crown, while getting crossed up in silly things like politics between the Prime Minister and the Count, some women that have gone missing, stolen by a vampire, obviously dragons, and a dead wizard that you bring back to life, and also a dancing mouse with a mage hat. Yeah, it is amusing anyway, whatever. The story itself is nothing really serious, like you shouldn't really take it seriously. But like games like these, it doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just the game is creating a story for you to go around to go beat people up, but it's more entertaining to be given something with a bit more depth rather than being told, hey, go here and kill this monster. One thing I do like about Dragon's Crown is how the story is actually told. It's done by a narrator who's actually got a brilliant voice and delivers lines in such a manner that even when he speaks just about nothing, like you still enjoy it. He also acts as a guide, reading, like telling you where to go next. Problem with this though is like he does it quite often. Like if you basically go around just to level up for a bit, and every time you enter and exit the door in the main town, it repeats the same line again and again. And at one point where I was leveling up just to get ready for one of the next dungeons, which were like under leveled by like 3 or 4 levels, I must have heard the same line about finding 9 more orbs to defeat the next dragon, like about 20 times or something. But you can turn voices off, so that's actually not too bad. But when like you're not eating repetitive lines, like the narrator I just love his voice. It's probably, even though he's like you don't see him, he's probably got the most character in the game, because like the actual heroes themselves really have 0 character development. They're basically just like characters that you use to beat the hell out of things, but at least each character's got its unique moveset, which is good. But like again, like it's a beat 'em up. You know, it doesn't really need to have character development. It's the main things that it needs to have is like awesome, like, you know, fighting mechanic, and Dragon's Crown has like it really has crafted a great beat 'em up experience. So yeah, like I said, while the characters themselves don't really have much personality, each one is extremely unique when it comes to how they play. Like not one of the 6 classes that you can pick feel like a clone or a palette swap, you know, of existing classes, or like in other games you often get ones like a very similar, might have one different move or something, but nothing here feels like that. There's a lot of depth to each of the 6 classes, and like when you finish the game, it's like it's worthwhile just to pick a different class and play through it again. Just the difference in playstyle, especially when you play some of the more advanced classes, is worthwhile to check out. I personally played through 3 classes in total, just to see what the recommendation system in the game is actually true. Is it actually telling me like, is this actually really for novices, and is this character really for advanced players? So I just want to check out each of the different 3 settings to see how they were. The first class I decided to pick was the Fighter. This is a class that the game mentions anyone can play. Basically it's covered in plate armor and has a sword and shield. Obviously with his shield he can block attacks, and with his sword it's a bit short, so you can only do close up like swipes and fury lashes of his weapon. The other class I played was the Amazon. She's another melee-based class, but she's a lot more agile in the fighter. She can dash around and deal crazy high damage with her two-handed weapons, but she also suffers from low defense. So to make up for this, she has like a parry attack, so you can counter people when they hit you, or you can swap some life for a berserk mode where she deals even more damage for a certain period of time. The other character I played as was the sorceress. The game recommends these classes for advanced players, and I after playing I understand why. Because a basic attack is extremely weak. It's just these green orbs that come out and they do not much damage at all, but instead she relies a lot on her magic, which is you can summon by pressing different directions of the D-pad plus the circle button. Thing is, magic isn't unlimited. It's based on the MP that she has. So obviously each type of magic move uses a different amount of MP. So when you run out, you have to hold the square button to charge it back up. So obviously at this point you have to run around and dodge attacks and make sure you're not getting hit while you're charging on the magic. But when she starts leveling up and starts receiving like spells and a book of spells and different elements on the rods to do different magic attacks, she can be extremely powerful. Like when I went online with my Amazon, some guy must have, I don't know, maxed out her or had some really good spells, because he just running around casting lightning and everything was dying. It's like, okay, this class is overpowered. But obviously she's a supportive role, so she's supposed to be played like with other people. I mean, some of her attacks include like summoning skeletons or conjuring, like putting like debuffs on enemies just to make them weaker. And one thing I feel in like beat 'em ups is like you have to get the combat right. Like if you get the combat wrong in a brawler, like if you make it too thin, or it can get extremely boring fast. But if you make it too complex, then you risk of pushing away like the people that aren't really hardcore enough to play some of these games. But thankfully Dragon Crown gets it just about right. There's plenty of depth here, but it's not like you're forced to use this depth if you don't want to. I mean, the class difficulty also helps. You know, you can pick like a novice class and be happy with that. You know, if you just want to hammer enemies or whatever, you're free to do so. But if you want to go further and, you know, extend that damage with combos and so on, you can do. Like advanced mechanics is like you can do air dashing, you can juggle enemies with different combos, you can cancel moves into other moves, especially if you use the elf. And you can also, a good thing is like you can kind of direct your attacks towards your friends, so you can have like, you could be comboing someone with your Amazon and then like at the end push the enemy close to your friend and getting them to come, and he could be like a sorceress, and then you could cast a spell and obviously it'd move the enemy to the wind or attack or lightning attack and do even more damage. It's even great, especially when there's like 4 heroes on screen and like all the enemies are coming in. Like the combat can be exceptionally chaotic, and but it's not like a bad thing. It's like it's very entertaining to see all these enemies being blasted around and people just getting in there and just beating the hell out of everything. It's just a lot of fun. What helps on top of this great combat is like the diversity in levels and boss designs. For example, like every stage has its own twist, which requires the player to do something different. On one level, you're riding a magic carpet across like a pit of lava, and behind you is like a wave of magma, like just lobbing hands. Why the hands? I have no idea. This game obviously makes no sense. But these hands and stuff are grabbing on your magic carpet and like trying to burn it. And if the carpet gets burnt, then you kind of land in the next place earlier than you should have done. So which translates into missing like a S piece of loot. I'll get to loot and stuff in a minute. Another example is like in the catacombs. There's these female ghosts, and the only way you can fight them off is by using fire. So on the walls are like these torches that you can just knock down and pick up and like stab them with fire and stuff. While obviously a sorceress can just like summon some fire and they'll die really fast that way. There's a lot of instances like each level is so different, and I just love how this is done to keep the game fresh when you play it. Like none of the 9 levels are the same, which is a really good thing. Obviously you're beating people up and stuff a lot, but it's just the situations that the game puts you in is different, and just replaying that is just a lot of fun rather than being 8 or 9 stages of being the same thing over and over again. Another thing that has quite a lot of diversity is the bosses, which are really intelligently designed. There's often like 2 ways you can go about beating them. There's like the best way and like a wrong way, I guess. Obviously, the best way is killing them, which grants bonus loot and gold. But like in the background, there's like an unknown timer going on. So if you take too long defeating a boss, and then some sort of outside force will interrupt you. For example, there's one where you're fighting like this demon gate, and that's actually a good example of diversity, because while you're fighting that gate, you're supposed to protect a cannon, which you from like breaking from the mini minions that are attacking as well. You load that cannon with cannonball and shoot, and it does like extreme damage on the gate. But anyway, when you're attacking the gate, if you spend too long trying to defeat it. A wave of like fireballs come from the sky and just do like super damage and instantly kill it. Another example is like this ghost spirit, this wraith. Basically, it's invincible unless you activate a statue, which basically this light comes out and then the wraith's like, oh my god, no, the light, and it opens up its chest and you attack it in its heart. But there's a limited amount of these statues, so if you run out and you haven't killed it by then, the game transitions you into a room with like light, and the wraith cannot go into this light, so the level ends. But like the narrator's like, oh, you managed to protect yourself from this wraith, but you don't feel so happy about it, and obviously you don't get any extra bonus loot and stuff. If you killed it, you get bonus loot. It's just like the developers have put in an extra like mile of work just to make each location in the game so distinct and different, and that's what really helps it make it stand out from other like beat-em-ups. To give the game like added depth, there's an RPG level system built in. This gives characters progression and customization. As you probably expect, like beating a dungeon and defeating enemies gives you experience, but you can also get experience from doing side quests in the Adventurers Guild. Obviously, side quests can range from simple, easy challenges like kill 10 owl bears or kill 5 these tree things, and some just like simple killing quests. Or there's more like mysterious ones, which are like, one of them's find the door behind the hidden wall, and like you're like, eh. And then one of the levels, you hit a wall, and like you go in and you find a door. It's like, oh, there it is. You click on it. Another one is investigate the pirate ship and find the pirate's name or the ship's name. Just things like that. And these more mysterious tasks make it a little bit harder to figure out where it is. I mean, often you'll find it like other people do them anyway, even though it's not their quest when you play with them. It's just that's how online friendly is. Yeah, but anyway, the Adventurers Guild is also a place to go if you want to buy new skills for your hero. There's special skills there's one specific to the class, and there's one like common skills for everyone. This helps build like the class how you want it. So for example, with my Amazon, which was kind of my main character I ended up using, I ignored like the Berserk skill because I didn't really use it that much. Like, I didn't want to sacrifice my health to get stronger, so instead I just put more points into giving a HP instead. The RPG level system just makes the game balanced as well, because each difficulty setting in the game limits how far your character can level up. So at the start of the game is on easy, and you can only go up to level 35. When you beat that, you unlock hard, which goes to 65. But then if you beat that as well, you unlock the last mode called Inferno, which goes up to 99. This way of scaling level systems is actually well thought out. Like, if you beat the game on normal, I think that took me about 13 hours, maybe just under. Like, I did a few side quests and faffed around a bit, but yeah, about 13 hours in total. You unlock the next difficulty where like all the 9 zones that you already beat, plus you've already beaten their B routes to get the orbs. They scale up to this new difficult level, so that it kind of stops the game from becoming a chore like a few times, because the challenge is always there. It never feels like super easy, because the game's always getting higher. It scales upwards and not down. I also like how the two difficulty settings that are just like slapped on. Like, you're not replaying the story again. It actually, when you finish it on easy, the story gives like an excuse in a way to make you want to keep playing it. So it's like they had a plan for these difficulties. There's one thing to note is that once you beat the game on normal, you also open up a special dungeon called the Labyrinth of Chaos. And this dungeon, it basically pulls random areas from the other 9 dungeons in the game and their B routes, and just slaps them together to create like a randomly new dungeon. So like, if you want a bit of excitement rather than you kind of know what's going to happen in the stage, you can just jump into the Labyrinth of Chaos, and it's also a good place just to get like some good loot as well, just to get that surprise. Loot is a very important aspect of Dragon's Crown, but what makes this game a bit different from like loot heavy based games such as like action RPGs and such is that how you gain the loot. The loot is found in treasure chests within dungeons, but the characters themselves don't actually interact with these chests. Instead, the players summon a thief with the use of the right stick, which moves a cursor on the screen. And then when you click L1, it's kind of like a click on a mouse, and it'll make the thief go to where you clicked to like open the treasure chest or open a door, because it's used to open like locked doors for like branching paths and so on. When you do open the chest, you get your treasure, and on the screen it'll tell you the ranking of the treasure from S to E. It's like the rarity of the item, but you don't actually get the item till you finish the stage. At that point, when all your loot is put onto the screen, and you just basically pay gold to identify them, and then the stats and stuff are given then, so you can decide if you want to keep this weapon or sell it. Disappointingly though, like, only weapons and shields actually look different when equipped. Armor or any other kind of like defensive item isn't visible to see. I mean, I understand why this is. I mean, obviously if you look at the eyes, it must be taking a long time to draw all these characters and animate them. So imagine having to like draw different kinds of armor to go on top of this, and it just seems like it'd take a lot of time. But at least you get different weapons and and shields and stuff. So at least something changes. But even then, even though like some corners are cut, like there's a lot of different weapons you'll be equipping. I mean, I think during my playthrough of the Amazon, I must have equipped over 100 different weapons. But obviously, a lot of these weapons were either like a giant axe or a giant scythe. So she only technically had like 3 or 4 different looking weapons, even though I switched them like so many times. A huge thing for this genre is obviously cooperative play. I mean, it's a massive selling point for beat 'em ups, and Dragon's Crown allows 4-player cooperative play from the get-go. In fact, up to 20 characters can be created on one save file. Technically, because the game includes 3 save files, you could have like 60 characters at one go. But it must be known that whichever character is player 1 is the one that determines the progress of the game. So, like, if someone wants to start the story from scratch, they will have to like start a new character and have that as player 1. But no matter what, you've always got space to create new characters with various friends that pop around to play with you. You know, like even if you just want to experiment, like you've got so many spaces to do this. Obviously, another good selling point is online, which is kind of a little bit different in Dragon's Crown. The online features of Dragon's Crown do not unlock until you have played through like all the 9 dungeons for the first time, which can take around about 4 hours. Once you've done that though, and you've unlocked the B routes, then you can set the game into online mode, which means people are free to join your game when you start a dungeon. You can also jump into like a friend's game or random persons by simply clicking on that option when you go to the stables or the random gate placer. There's no voice or chat communication, which obviously might upset some people, but a game like this, it doesn't really need to have communication. Like the tasks are easy to understand, and like if you really want to point something out to someone, you can just use your cursor and just go, look at this green hand, and then keep clicking on something, and I'm sure they'll understand what's going on. It's a visual clue. But yeah, the gameplay requires 0 communication between players. I mean, everyone seems to know what they're doing in Dragon's Crown anyway. Like I already mentioned, people seem to do those optional side quests even when they're not needed. Just assume it, just in case you need to. You've got that quest active and you want to find it. Usually they'll do it anyway, just to get more experience. Online seemed very active when I was playing it. I never once had to enter room. Everyone was always joining my game, or I could easily get into someone else's game. Obviously, the game's been in Japan for a couple of days, and it just came out in America. And when I was playing it, it was the day before, a couple of days before release, and there were loads of Japanese players there, so I can see this game having no problem like finding people to play with. When talking about Dragon's Crown, I guess you can't really not talk about the art. You can't mention it. There's been quite a few outspoken opinions of what is portrayed in the game. But for me personally, I find everything is so eccentric, like it's so exaggerated and over the top. None of the characters, well, I suppose apart from the elf maybe, seem anything close to normal. I mean, just look at people say, oh, the sorcerer's got huge boobs and she's got a big butt, and Amazon, like, she's so muscly. It's kind of funny that they say they're muscly, because like, don't we like debating about how come there's never any ugly characters? Even though I'm not really saying she's ugly, she's just like overly muscly, but like, people are like, oh, she looks so like a beast, she looks like a man with a bloody axe and stuff. It's like, well, wasn't we out crying for something like a bit different, a bit this? I mean, surely she might be sexualized, but then I think everyone's sexualized in that game. I mean, look at the dwarf. I mean, name me one man who wants to have a chest like that. That chest is so big, it's ridiculous. Like, imagine if you were trying to have a pee. Like, can you imagine him trying to have a pee? Like, you can't even see down below. He gets out his tinker, goes to have a pee, and he's like, I'm just going to have a pee right now. Psst, I can't see. Oh God, why do my feet feel a bit wet? Oh Jesus, I peed on my wheel. It's just, I don't know. It's just, everything is so silly and over the top in that game, and I just feel like if you're going to complain about one thing, you have to complain about everything in that game. But I personally feel it absolutely beautiful. It's very distinctive and different, which like George Kamitani said, he wanted it to be different from other fantasy art, and he totally has done here. And seeing it in animation and movement on like a 40-inch TV screen, it looks so beautiful. Like Vanillaway and Kamitani have had a knack for like creating wonderfully looking worlds, and Dragon's Crown certainly, in my opinion, no doubt like one of their most stunning work to date. Like everything is obviously crafted from the love of his job. Just so much detailed worlds and like backgrounds. It's just like a really cool looking like paint style, which is not often you don't really see like this style in games much. And I just feel like it should be highlighted that this is absolutely amazing piece of work, and that you shouldn't be afraid just to stand and look at it. When you're playing a game, just to stand still and just look at the background. Just See how beautiful it just looks. I mean, some of this art I would love to have like as a massive wallpaper in my bedroom or something. Like, especially the ones that you unlock in the side quests. Some of it's just so nice, and I guess you should start like looking at ending this because it's been talking for a while. So when I look back on Dragon's Crown, I don't really have a major fault with the game. I mean, the story's a little weak, but in this genre it doesn't really matter like, if you haven't got a strong narrative, so that's okay. And like the length of Dragon's Crown is actually longer than most beat 'em ups for your first completion. I mean, I say it took me about 13 hours or so. So if you don't want to play it like multiple times, you still got a good chunk of gameplay there. For me personally, I see Dragon's Crown as a game that I can just throw into my PS3, play for an hour or two with my characters that I've created. I mean, even if you want to do like the extreme and finish the game with all 6 characters and all 3 difficulties, then you're easily going to look at 100 hours of gameplay. So I mean, it's fair enough, it might not be all new content every time, but just playing with online people and just having like a really in-depth, mechanically rewarding combat system and really good level design helps to keep the grind away from them for the most part. Without doubt, for me, Dragon's Crown is easy. Well, maybe not easily, because that means that everything else is really, really bad or not close, but all the games have been actually pretty good. But yeah, this is probably Vanillaware's best title to date. But it's not only that, it's like the company's should be extremely proud of what they have like accomplished with this game. It's just, I mean, as you look at every other games that have come out recently in this genre, like it's not easy to create a beat 'em up that is like mechanically solid, plays really well, but also has the depth to keep coming back. But the studio like Vanillaware has just done that. I mean, it's not often like a 100% commit to saying you must buy this beat 'em up game without then going to say, oh, but it's extremely short or it gets a bit boring at this point and stuff. But with Dragon's Crown, it's so good that I can instantly send my approval out there that if you're interested in this genre, just buy it. It's really good. Like for me, like I love these type of games. Like some of my favorites are like Streets of Rage 2, Guardian Heroes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. But now Dragon's Crown's arrived, all these classic titles are gonna have to like be shuffled up a little because I actually believe this is probably one of the top 3 best scrolling beat 'em ups I've actually ever played. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you want more, just click and like and subscribe and share with all your friends and stuff. And maybe I'll do more of these videos if you're interested. See ya.